Hello, hello. Today we're going to go over a New Zealand photo set that I captured while I was in Auckland on the Fuji X100VI. Starting off with my favorite photo of the trip is a picture of sheep grazing and running just in the meadow. And this was captured at a place called Perihoa, just a magnificent, beautiful place. New Zealand, if you didn't know, has roughly, according to Google, like 4.6 sheep per one person. There are so many sheep, and I didn't realize that when I was first visiting New Zealand. Placing myself in that moment, it was rainy that day. It was so cloudy. The clouds were so low to the ground. It was almost a perfect, these sheep's in their natural habitat. The rolling hills, the mountains in the back with a little bit of motion blur just made this image come to life for me. When I take photos, I think about compositions and what story I want to tell, because we have one frame and one image to tell that story. Rather, in video, you have 24 frames. The sun was just coming in from the perfect angle. This picture doesn't do it justice. One of those things that why I'm so grateful for travel and so grateful to experience different aspects of the world is it feels like you're in your own movie. This was one of the first days that I was in New Zealand, and this is the Piha store, a beach called Piha Beach near Auckland. It's about a 45-minute drive, and I just really love that this is just like tucked away in the nature of New Zealand, and I really approached this trip as a documenting life trip. We're here. I was like, I would love to remember this moment. This was at the Auckland domain, and it was a thing called Christmas in the Park, and it was free for attendees. And I was like, let's go. In these types of moments, I just really enjoy the Sky Tower in Auckland is in the background, and I wanted that to be the focal point of the image. And the colors were turning that cotton candy, beautiful tone. People were there with their families, their friends, laughing, talking, and this was the stage. There were some local Kiwi acts playing. I just really loved this and how the light was hitting the stage, and wow, it was so much movement and so much joy happening. I've really grown a liking to create paintings with my images in camera. I put my shutter speed to 1/6 to get that feeling of abstract art. The War Museum there in the background, and the people were just sitting on the hill, and to me it's just a really pleasing image. I had a friend that I had met in New Zealand who just happened to be there at the same time as me from LA, and my friend Raymond, and I love you Raymond if you're watching this, and he knew someone who lived on this island called Waiheke, and this moped was half covered from the day, plus the staircase goes down into a home. Shows how different people live their lives. Here we were in the downtown area of Waiheke, and this is a portrait composition versus landscape. Chose to do this in portrait because I wanted to get the more vertical environment. I just put myself in these moments in the shoes of the subjects that I'm capturing, because what is the story behind this couple, right? They found themselves in Waiheke in December of 2024. Just enjoying their life. We rode this really cool Land Rover around Waiheke, and I wanted to showcase and document that vehicle and what life was like on the common streets in Waiheke. And so here you're looking into the South Pacific Ocean or Tasman Sea. Everywhere I looked looked like a movie, and the man showing us around that island, his name was Jonas, and we stopped at this beach where the locals just would park their mopeds and get out and just lay around. What I really loved about this image is these mopeds were just perfectly lined up, and people were riveting to get to this beach. All the sunlight looked so soft there. That's one thing that the Fuji does incredibly well, is capturing a harsh sunlight and making it look nice. This to me is one of my favorite images I've ever taken. The colors, the subjects here, one man who was sitting in a wheelchair still getting out and about and going about his life, then sitting next to who I presume is his partner with their grandchild, and then just the locals going about their day in the background. I don't know how to describe it. It gives me this feeling of going back in time and just really being there in the moment. The reason I think this composition worked, the couple is in the lower third of the image while I showcase everything else in the right upper 2/3, right? That is one thing about photography and videography and composition and storytelling that is important, that often goes missed when you're in these moments, is what is the best image that you can take? I fully believe that there are so many ways you can take any image and capture any story, yet the way you choose to do is so important. I really enjoyed how the light was hitting the mopeds here and the different colored mopeds. And then as you see in the background, there's a woman in a red or orange sundress. I really enjoyed how there was that opening in the composition to show life happening with these mopeds just parked, waiting to be used again. So walking around that island, I saw the arrows pointing to the directions of the street with people parked their bike right next to it. I feel like it's a really balanced image in terms of telling the story of the people next to the bike and the sign are facing to go across the image. The man with the sunglasses on the right is looking the opposite way. There's so many different things going on in life at a single time, and people are in their own worlds and living their own life, and this is one of those examples. Here we're back in the car driving back towards the ferry towards the end of the day. I wanted to try to portray how quickly we were buzzing around this island, and that's where I also use a slower shutter speed. And what's the shutter speed that you should use? I just play around, and it's no scientific result. I start around 1/60th or 1/50th because that's natural motion blur is in a 24 frames per second film. However much motion you want captured, you just adjust from there. Here we're back at Perihoa. This was one of the last days I was in Auckland. I met this wonderful group of people and got to spend an evening just sharing stories about life and getting to know them and gain new perspectives and grow and take that with us as we go on in life. This is one of my best friends. The sheep are back, and it felt like they owned Perihoa. I wanted to take him home with me. I always try to get in front of the camera nowadays to document that I was actually there, and I get to look back at this and I'll know exactly how I felt. And in this moment, I was feeling so much gratitude, so much love, and so much peace for life. The sun is just finally setting, while on the left, it's a darker sky. And I love that because there's such a cool contrast when that type of lighting happens, and then also the clouds in the sky, and it was just such a soft, ethereal moment. If you can't tell, I love to have them as my subject because it also showed the vastness of the land and of the horizon and how big the world was. These last set of images were taken in Hobbiton in New Zealand, and that's why I was in New Zealand, was to capture the new animated Lord of the Rings War of the Rohirrim movie premiere. I am a huge Lord of the Rings fan. It's one of the reasons why I started creating. So this was a very full circle special moment for me that I will never forget. If you are interested, I will make a video on my arm sleeve. It's actually all Lord of the Rings, and it tells the story from The Hobbit to The Return of the King. And I was standing there in Hobbiton looking at Bagan. It feels such like a dream. And I am so eternally grateful to have opportunities like this to go travel the world and make these images and also just do it for my job. These two images to me mean more than words can describe. I told myself when I started creating that I was going to visit Hobbiton once I finished my arm sleeve. My good friend and mentor, John Brandon Cruz, put me on this job, and over on Instagram, we have a video of telling that story, and I'll link it down below. Let me know which images were your favorite, and we can get that conversation started. And I just really enjoy sharing these things with you and telling a little bit of backstory. And you could have been doing anything today, and you chose to spend a few minutes together with me, and I love you. Have a great day.